Hello.
Hi.
We're back.
We are. All wrapped in thread.
All wrapped in thread. Evidently, this is going to be a gift, and she's wrapping those wheels up good.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how I did. It's not like I was spinning.
Nope, just forward and back. That's all it took.
All right.
Okay.
So it's week 2.
It is week 2 of Demo December.
It is.
I'm flabbergasted that somehow happened.
We have a thread wrapped around the bottom of the chair here.
Mm-hmm. It was all her.
Totally me. I was over here sewing.
You were?
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. So we are on week 2 of Demo December, and this is sewing week. So hello, all the way out from Olympia. That's a little distance from here.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah. I guess I can't complain about my 40-minute ride then.
No. Right? Not comparatively. No. I mean, you can, but not
No
sure
one
anyone's
cares.
gonna. Right? That's what you should be typing. No one cares. So yeah, that's a little distance. Thank you for joining us. I did enjoy my vacation. Thank you. I got to sew. My last vacation, I didn't get to not even a single stitch. This one, I had lots of stitches. Mm-hmm. Way more than a single.
Your
Hi,
mom's
Mom.
on.
Hi, Mom. Way more than a single stitch. So, yep. And I got to bake cookies, eat cookies, more importantly.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good vacation. Thanks, Shirley. And yeah, so it was good. And now I'm back, and we're going to be live like every day.
It's crazy.
That
sometimes
if we are both here, we're going to be live until Christmas.
Yes.
For every day until Christmas, if we are both here.
That's true. Yes.
If we're open and we're both in the shop, we are going to be live. Mm-hmm. For some reason.
Because we like to torture ourselves.
Because we have nothing better to do.
Yes.
Because we know you guys you would miss us.
I know.
It's like the 12 days of Christmas.
Right.
Of SnL.
I know. But someone reminded me this morning that she didn't think that we were doing any classes at all. And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, lady. Where you been?
Let me count the ways. So, today we're going to talk about the 1/4 inch.
Yes.
So sewing with that perfect 1/4 inch, because of course, that's very important when you're doing any sort of quilting or something that the seam actually has to be precise. So how you can get a precise seam allowance, regardless of whether it's a 1/4 inch or something else, but whenever that seam allowance matters, and how we can find that. We've got a couple tools. You can see a little bit of a neon tool in that little window.
It's pretty bright out there, isn't it?
It's a little bit bright over there. And then we're going to talk very briefly about applique. She's got a little bit. So Sarah's going to do all of the work, and I'm going to just sit over here and watch.
You're going to push my buttons.
I'll push buttons. If you'd like me to push a button, I will push a button. I'm just going to sit just like this.
So this is kind of like, these are my favorite tools. The tools that I'm sharing with you today, if you have spent any time with me, you know that I probably use them
now I feel better.
So I have my 2 favorite feet, and I also have my favorite 2 favorite accessories, I guess. So on the machine already, I have the open toe foot. So this fits brother baby lock, random machines, most any brother or baby lock. And this is the metal open toe foot, and it is one of my most favorite feet. And this guy over here is, let's get that on the camera. This is the edge stitch foot. And I'm going to use this to do some top stitching on the towel. And I also have my seam guide here. So I get asked a lot of times about perfect 1/4 inch. And there are several different ways that you can go about getting those. The tools that I have right here are super helpful for making sure that you are being accurate. This neon ruler over here is, it's called the Sew Standard Seam Guide. It has all kinds of different markings on them. You can kind of see the little holes over here. Those are different seam allowances. And as you can see on the machine, I sort of walked my hand wheel down. So I put the needle in the seam allowance that I wanted to use. And so it's kind of locked in place right now. And then I am going to put my foot down. And then once I do that, I can make sure that my
Like
ruler
you mean it.
is straight. Absolutely. Like you mean it.
Like you mean it.
And then I can just slide my seam guide up over here. So a lot of people like to use a 1/4 inch foot with a guide. This is what I would prefer to use. It sits in front a little bit and it's multi-purpose. So you can use it with all kinds of different seam allowances and feet, not just a 1/4 inch foot. So I'm going to talk about what I do to sort of prep piecing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about quilting because we're kind of piecing some stuff, and I'm going to use some quilt language that if you are not a quilter, maybe you don't know what it is, but hopefully you understand what it is when I'm finished. So I'm actually going to take this out here and I'm going to thread my machine with regular sewing thread. And then we are going to get ourselves ready for a 1/4 inch seam. And I would typically use my standard foot on the machine, which I'm going to change to, and then I move my needle position over. And the reason that I like to do that is because you can see very clearly underneath here that we have feed dogs. We have
Beautiful
one on the
feed
left
dogs.
and we have one on the right. When I just use a 1/4 inch foot, what happens is when I lay my fabric underneath, I am missing one whole side of the feed dog system here. So the fabric doesn't actually hit both. And when that happens, sometimes you might find that you feel like you're constantly shoving your fabric over from one side to the other, like lists to one side.
It tries to turn on its
Yes,
own.
like a unicycle.
You are literally having to keep it straight on the straight and narrow because it's trying to turn on you.
Absolutely. So by changing our needle position and moving it over ever so slightly, this will allow us to use both sets of feed dogs.
How many times you put the thread right through there?
Oh, never.
Are you lying?
No.
You've never snapped your thread underneath that?
It's always squirrely like this, so it doesn't usually happen. No. Do you do that? But it
Somehow, evidently, I am just blessed.
You're very talented.
I'm very blessed in that. I've actually gotten my thread caught underneath that.
Well, I mean, the bonus.
I'm just so lucky. I don't know.
It'll keep it out of your way.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't sew very well like that.
No, it's kind of like
It goes,
right?
It's like
Darn wall.
It doesn't want to go anywhere. Ask me how I know that.
So I'm gonna slide over to the quilt menu on this machine, and I'm gonna touch the piecing stitch, which is Q02 on this particular machine. I am sewing on a Brother Luminaire, and what this is it is the piecing stitch, and then it is right. So piecing stitch right, and what that does is it moves my needle position over to the right. Imagine that, from right of center.
Right of center.
Yes.
So these machines, almost every machine we have in the store has a 7 millimeter stitch width. So that means that opening where your needle can be, I don't know if you can see my hands on the side, we're going to pretend that is 7 millimeters. So center of 7, here's some crazy math, guys, is 3.5. So right of center is somewhere between 3.5 and 7. There you go.
On this, it's 5.5.
So 5.5 is that magic number,
right?
That's going to pop up for you automatically.
Right, which is ironic because 5.5 millimeters is a 1/4 inch. So it totally makes sense.
Look at that.
And that's why there are some machines on the market that are 5.5 millimeter wide machines, and there are a lot of entry level style machines. And they do that because the fabric will ride will ride very straight in there, and they don't have to have a very sophisticated box system, feed dog system. And then when you move up to a fancier machine, you don't know this. The feed dog spaced out now.
Space out. Now you have to
and
figure
now
out a
you're
way to make that work.
And people are like, well, I never had this problem on my old machine. And then when we explain the difference, it totally makes sense.
It does if you understand what's going on underneath there.
Yes. So I've moved the needle position over, and if you are the type of person who not only wants to ride your fabric along the outside edge of the foot, but you would also like a guide. So I'm just placing this ruler right on the outside edge of the feed dog here, and I'm making sure that it's straight, and then I'm just going to bump this over and tighten it up. This will allow me to use this as a guide in front visually, as well as the edge of my foot. And it clears, it's up far enough that it clears the edge of this foot, which is really nice. So on the bottom part of our towel, we have these really cool little squares, and they get pieced together. So last week we talked a little bit about how we could cut the pieces in parts every time.
Why are you even?
I don't know.
Because you were sitting over here.
I can't find it any other time of the day.
You can never find it until we go live.
Until we go live, right? So I have some strips of fabric here. These are not exactly the same colors that are in the bottom of your towel. These were just some fabric pieces that we had laying around. And I have starched them. So we talked about that last week. And then I've cut them into 2.5-inch wide strips. So this is what we consider strip piecing. And it is also known as chain piecing. So what I'm going to do is I've sort of laid these out in the order that I would like them to be.
Got a front row seat.
Yeah, you got a front row seat.
So how's this?
Right. You need to put some glitter on your forehead.
Oh, I need glitter. Sorry.
It's better when I turn around and be like,
I'll sneak it in there later.
So I have these fabrics, and I'm just going to piece a couple of these together so that we can talk about what I did. So this is just that's much better. Just a really quick way of learning.
Don't mind us.
How to do something here. Can you see my leg? It's moving over for my knee lift.
That's why you're hitting me, huh?
That's why I'm hitting you, yeah.
What did you want?
Yeah, I want my knee lift. Can you put my foot down for me?
Playing footsie with me over here under the table. What?
All right, so I've got my 2 pieces of it just is habit.
Her knees just smacking me under the table. I'm like, what? So the last time we talked about that beautiful seam guide, we didn't have any in the store. And so as soon as we were done, the phone started ringing. Mm-hmm. Can I have one of these? No, because we don't have any. We actually do this time.
We do have some.
So that's what I disappeared real quick just to make sure we actually did. So Sarah's lining these up, which of course, raw edge to raw edge. And then she is running that raw edge right along the seam guide, which is also right along the edge of the foot. So she's not having to work very hard to make sure that she's getting that straight seam. And the chain aspect of this is that there is a link of thread that's connecting each section of these pieces. So that is the definition of that chain, is that she's not cutting the thread from one piece to the next. So it's not a constant.
Yeah, you're not constantly cutting the thread. You're not bringing your hands into the back. It's a very efficient way of piecing similar items. And I have the pivot feature on the machine, so that's why it keeps
popping up,
which is a really nice feature to have on when you are chain piecing. Not so much when you're doing border stuff, because then the fabric likes to shift every time you get to the end.
So now that she's gone through the whole piece, now of course she cuts.
Yes.
So we had a really nifty tool out at one point that would cut those threads. If you are a chain piecer like this, there's a really neat tool that you just kind of go chink, 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 and it cuts your threads.
Yep.
As always, sound effects are free.
And so again, I'm just going to lay the fabrics
wrong sides together, which you're slightly off camera. I don't know if you can push that up just a little bit. So now she's got those two pieces with the folds. She's not pressing yet. We're just going to lay those two.
I'm like, why can't I sew fast? It does matter.
So there's one piece, and then again, the second piece, right sides together, line that up, still connected, haven't cut thread. And cuts when she gets to the end.
And then the last one. So the beauty about doing something like this is really one of the reasons why I haven't pressed is because if I got my fabrics like in the wrong order, I could flip in because they haven't been pressed any one direction yet. So it's really super easy to. So essentially the reason that I am doing it like this is for two reasons. It takes half the time to
sew the pieces together.
Right. Sew all of the pieces together this way because you're not starting and stopping. And if you've ever sewn and then had like your top piece, all of a sudden
shift a little.
Right. They don't line up perfectly at the top. When you're doing squares.
No cheating. We know all of you have had that happen.
Right. So of course it usually happens to me a lot. This isn't too bad, but you can like see on the sides here. So the two pieces aren't perfectly lined up. So by doing it this way, I will be able to press all of these open and then I can make my two cuts and I would have exactly the amount of space that I need.
No little edges that don't line up.
That's right. So
because you're going to actually cut
those
off.
Pieces. Yes. And then sew them together. And obviously I did too many pieces here because I wouldn't quite need, but I wanted them to get the gist. And so here I've cut mine in half and then I sewed the one piece together. And so then I ended up with a long.
You have the pattern repeat because it's the same piece sewn.
You can see that it just repeats. So
that's how you created the piece that we're going to sew to the bottom of the towel.
Yep, that is exactly how we created that. So and again, this is a towel. So would it really matter if my pieces were off just a little bit? No, it would not. But this is one of those times where you can take this as like a skill builder and you can really kind of hone your skills on stuff like this because it's not such a big, overwhelming project. Right. And it is super easy to do.
So from a skill building standpoint, cutting is one important tool. Mm-hmm. When you're cutting those strips, you need to have accurate 2.5-inch wide strips so that when you sew those with 1/4-inch seams, you end up with 2 inches here once they're sewn together. Mm-hmm. And that is getting you that accurate 1/4-inch seam. So once you have this, if you measure and you don't end up with an actual 2-inch piece, you know that you're not sewing accurately.
Yes.
And that is how you can test out your 2.5-inch cut and your 1/4-inch seam allowance.
Yep, absolutely. Lisa is absolutely right. Doing a sewing test is the best way to figure out if you are actually in the pocket and sewing it the way that you want it to be. There was my bowling reference, in the pocket.
In the pocket. Yep. So, and that's something that, when you get a new machine and when you get, new threads, everything is going to play a part in. So you can't necessarily change one aspect of something and expect everything else to fall exactly the way that it did previously. Yep. So doing tests is always going to be important.
Absolutely. It makes a real big difference in the whole big scheme of things. Came unthreaded.
So, as we have said before, there are those who test.
Yes.
And there are those who wish they did. So it doesn't have to be a big project, but testing is definitely making sure, but especially if it's a large quilting project where everything does need to add up mathematically to have the end project work.
Yes.
This one doesn't matter.
Accuracy is
but when accuracy does matter and there's quilt math involved so that, the 2-inch here and the 4-inch there need to add up so that you end up with an actual 6-inch square to add up to the other 6-inch square. You kind of go, oh dear, when it doesn't, and then you have to start fudging. Fudging is not fun.
No, fabric only stretches so much.
Fudge is only fun when you get to eat it.
Yes.
So let's have no fudging in quilting.
No fudging in quilting. No.
Okay. So that is how we do piece chain piecing,
Mm-hmm.
and
Or strip piecing.
strip piecing. You know, this is the only kind of stripping we want to talk about. So if you have some other concerns, you guys can talk to somebody else about those. We're not going to go there.
Yeah.
But I don't see any questions popping up. So hopefully that was really clear. And a really great way to be able to use the entire feed dog system. So we definitely talk about that when we sell you guys new machines. I know both Sarah and I will talk about using your entire feed system. But there's certainly lots of you out there that maybe we haven't had that conversation with. So
yes,
I think that covers that.
That does cover
So,
that. So starting in on our towel, let's go over to the
let's
picture
go
here.
over here. And we've got some applique work that has been done. You want to zoom?
I think I'm going to zoom just a little
Zoom,
bit.
zoom, zoom.
Might be a little bit easier to see. There we go. So
Did you get in on the Star Wars reference earlier today?
mm-mm.
Evidently, Tony came around the corner and Hayden shot him.
Oh,
Pew pew! And he was like, I can't believe I just did that. It was fantastic. Yep.
So these towels are definitely busy. So I apologize for the, oh my gosh, there's giant polka dots on this screen.
We might have had a few of those laying around, so we thought we'd use one of those instead of something else.
But I started doing some basic applique on here, and I'm not using any fancy applique stitches. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more here. See if we can see.
See what we can see. Oh, there we go. Yeah, definitely.
So now you can really see all I'm using on this so far. This is a triple stitch and the zigzag stitch. So those are the only two stitches that I have used to applique these pieces on. This is Fusible Glitter. So it is our heat transfer glitter that we use. And I just kind of visually eyeballed it. I started with this piece of paper here. This is the piece that you print out from Kimberbell. And I just kind of visually looked at this and decided that this looked close enough. You can see that it's not exactly the same dimensions as what they did. Here, I'll fold this corner over. That might make it a little bit easier.
There we go. Perfect.
So, but it's pretty close. So there you go. I've got my my hot cocoa stand sign is a little taller than theirs. And I've got my cup moved over in a slightly different position. But it is yours, and you can do whatever it is that you want to do. So sometimes when I'm doing applique, I don't always use the traditional applique stitches. So it's not always like a satin stitch and or a blanket stitch. A lot of times I use, I think there's a white piece of material someplace around here. Not sure.
I don't see it.
Okay.
Is it under the towel by any chance?
Nope.
Okay. Then I have no idea.
All right. Well, that's okay. So sometimes you use other styles of stitches in order to double check to make sure that you're going to visually like what you want. So I was practicing some of the zigzag stitches on here, and I wonder if we can see what happened. Can you see the little bubble that happened? It like raised
I could see
up.
it, but
so what happened when I did the zigzag stitch here is the zigzag stitch kind of pulled in and it started to tunnel. You can really see it right here.
I don't see that fabric anywhere.
So I knew that if I was going to use this style of stitch, that I was going to need to add a little bit of stabilizer to the back. So I would just like to point out here that I do have some tearaway stabilizer on the back. So it's just a tearaway and I've got it doubled. I needed something else to help support those decorative stitches. You can see on the back all of the little fuzzies from the tail threads, but you can see some of the little zigzag stitches on the back. But I'm basically just using the triple stitch and the zigzag stitch to sort of embellish my wood pieces here. And those are, like I said, just basic sewing stitches on the machine. Nothing super fancy. I believe what makes all the difference in the world is being able to see clearly when you are actually stitching. So I used this foot here. So there you go. You can see how it's nice and open inside.
She's not done with the tree yet, Trish. Yes, it looks like a Charlie Brown tree.
Yep.
She's not done yet.
Yeah, there's just one strand on my tree.
Yeah. When she originally showed me, what do you think? There was no tree. It was just the pot.
It's just a pot. So the tree grew.
It looks great comparatively.
So I just like to show the two different styles of feet here so that you can kind of see visually wise. There's some markings on the back of the foot here, which are really nice. I like to move my needle position over to the right and use this inside edge of the toe as a nice straight line and reference. And I can tell where that outside red mark is going to be. That's actually where my needle is going to go. So it's really easy for you to line up your fabrics when you're doing some of your stitching. Having the ability to drop your needle down and do your needle in place is a big help when you're starting, because sometimes it's really hard to visually figure out where you're going to start.
So I would term you as a fairly experienced applicator.
Yes.
You have had a lot of playtime
Yes.
on lots of different projects. I would terminate. I would term.
She would terminate
I would
herself.
terminate myself. I would term myself as a very much so beginner. I've only done a couple,
Mhm.
and I literally mean like 2, maybe 3 things that I have done applique. And previously, I only had the standard foot,
Mhm.
and I hated it.
Yeah. It's big and bulky.
Well, I couldn't see what I was doing, and
Right.
so I wasn't ever hitting what I wanted to hit. My stitch never hit the spot where I wanted it to be, and so I hated it. And so I'm like, yeah, screw this. I'm done. I'm out. I'm not doing this. I suck at it, right?
Yep.
I took home the open toe foot, and I'm like, oh, I mean, it was night and day difference, guys. It is all about the tools, having the right thing in front of you, and how much difference it makes.
Mhm.
So I highly, highly recommend it if you are, wanting to learn that technique. Come get a foot. If you have one in your drawer because you thought about it at some point, pull it out. It is
Yeah.
literally,
We're not going to break the bank with this foot, guys. If you
Yeah,
don't
it's-
own it.
and if you bought your machine from us, it's literally $12.79 with your discount.
Yes.
So, totally worth every penny.
Yep.
Okay. It's totally worth every penny. There is a clear one. I like the metal one actually better.
Mhm.
You don't need the clear. The markings, and where you can see everything that you need to see with where this one is at.
This one's hard to break.
Yeah.
I've broken a lot of clear feet. I've put
Good point.
my needle right through like the outside edge of it. Like I'm sure everybody has done this. Like, you shouldn't move your fabric when the needle is in, but you pull
You
it or
pull it because
right?
you're ready to go, and
Yeah, and then the needle
you're like,
comes
I
down
just
and
need it to scooch this way.
yeah, and my
Oops.
needles clip the corner of a clear foot, and I've broken several of them. I've also the machine foot really shouldn't slam down that hard, but I have slammed down my foot when I had a bunch of material underneath there, and broke a foot that way as well.
Really?
Yes.
Well, you are talented.
I am very yes.
There
Plastic.
really is a thing about if it's not Sarah-proof.
It's true. It's totally true. This is why I like the knee lift so much, because I can't
Do that.
slide it out of my it
Well,
doesn't leave out of my hand. So
There you go.
sorry,
That's-
that's a knee.
Wow.
What are you doing?
Hello there. But yeah, so seriously, guys, if this is something that you want to be able to learn how to do, you definitely highly, highly recommend it.
Yes.
Because I tried it before and hated it. And it was because I didn't have the right tools.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, maybe I don't suck as bad as I thought I did. So seriously,
Yeah, the tools really do make a big difference. So I'm gonna put this clear foot on the machine.
She means the open
And
toe foot.
I am gonna put the non-clear open toe foot on
Uh-huh.
the machine, and then we're gonna work on our Charlie Brown tree a little bit.
All right, let's do it.
So I took a friction marker, and I did do a little bit of visual drawing because I'm not a visual person. So I need to have something to guide me. And I have almost sewn through both layers of this towel more than once.
I was going to say, you do know that's doubled, right?
Yeah. So you definitely want to make sure that you
open that little guy up.
Yes. And then we are going to change threads. The thing with applique is that you do need to have a wide variety of different threads. And I just want you to know the struggle is real. Like, we have bags of really fun thread in the back that we don't sell here. And I really wanted to use them, but I didn't because we don't sell the thread, and I wouldn't.
And that would be the first thing that you guys said. Ooh, can I get some of that? And the answer would have had to been no. So therefore, we're not using it because we don't want you guys to get all excited and then have to break your heart.
Yeah, and then I would have to say that I don't even know where you can get it because I'm not even sure.
Don't even know what it is.
Yeah, but at home, I have like a couple of really fun drawers full of fun threads that
sparklies and glitters and variegateds and variegated glitters and all kinds of fun things. But you can really punch something up. And this is not a construction thread, so it doesn't have to be strong. It doesn't have to be anything except pretty. It just needs to be pretty.
Exactly. And like, if you wanted to give a hand at doing like some free motion embroidery work, this would be a really fun project to do because these are itty bitty pieces. So you could like put some dark brown thread in here and do like some little swirls for the wood slats because it's tiny, it's small. It wouldn't be like, oh my God, this is one of those projects that I'll never end.
I'm never going to find the other side of this piece of fabric.
Yes. However, you can go down the rabbit hole with that as well. So, you know, when you start embellishing it, it can be like, how did this towel take me 9 hours? So you can certainly do all kinds of fun stuff. But here is my little Charlie Brown tree. And I've done one row of stitching down here, and it's probably not enough. So if you had some thicker threads, that would be really fun to do this on. But I'm just going to actually go down again right next to the additional stitches. And my little trick for when you have something like this is to start at the base. So if you start at the base of the pot here, then you won't run past it. So what I'm going to do is just gently put my needle down so that I can see where I am. And it's definitely important for me to change my stitch because I'm not in the right stitch. So I'm really...
Your needle in the fabric.
It doesn't matter. The machine does not care.
Okay.
Little pro tip. There you go.
I don't do that regardless.
Yeah, your machine will actually not move the needle until the needle comes up and the needle bar is where it's supposed to. So your needle will not move.
No, I realize that, but then you'll have to realign.
I'm actually just going to go right over to the end of the foot.
Okay.
But yes, in theory, you might have to. In theory,
it might be in a different spot depending upon what stitch you're going to.
Yep. Yeah. So I am going to the triple straight stitch, which is stitch number 105 on this particular stitch here. And again, I'm just going right on the side of this.
Isn't it crazy how far away that hand wheel is on this machine?
Yeah, it is.
It's
insane.
A reach.
Yeah. There we go. And then I'm just going to stitch up again. And I'm just stitching right along the edge of that, trying not to go back into my original holes. And then you could also turn around and come back, right, to make that just a little bit thicker. Now you do have to pay a little bit more attention when you're coming back around so that you don't blow past your pot. You could also use a really tiny zigzag for this, and that would be really cute as well. but that's a little bit better. So it's a little bit more prominent. If I were doing this at home, I would totally have free motioned that. I would have just gone back and forth and played around with that. But free motion quilting is not great on this video because you won't see anything but my hands. So now I can just go back and forth and embellish my little leaves or pieces. So you've seen what the triple straight stitch does. So let's make it a really tiny zigzag stitch. We want this to be tiny, not 0. And it's a good time to have your practice. So I made this 1 millimeter wide and about 0.8. So a little wider and a little closer together. And I came unthreaded again. It is does not like the end of this bobbin. Here we go. So that is really dark, but you can see it.
You're in front of the light, that's all.
Still really dark. Too far away. Anyways, you can see it more than you could hear. So let's embellish a little bit more. So we'll do one more branch with this, and then we'll talk a little bit about doing a traditional blanket stitch. So again, I'm just using my hand wheel to make sure that I get my needle in the position that I want it to be. I like to start at the branch. And I'm going to lock it in place. Like to do that stitch in place. And then I've got my little branch, which looks a little bit more like a branch. So there we go, right there. So now we've done 2 branches, and I bet you the eyelet stitch would be really cute for like the bulbs. So maybe we'll have to try that in a minute. And then let's talk about doing a regular blanket stitch. So I'm gonna switch the stitch, and we'll do one of the cups. Let's find that pretty red thread that's everywhere.
It's right here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll make sure it doesn't get in your wheels. No more hot rodding for you.
No more hot riding for me.
Dangerous driver.
I blame the thread. It's Floriani. Floriani does not like me. It tried to get away and it ran away.
It ran away.
It's like, get away from that crazy woman. All right, so now we are going to look for the blanket stitch. And there are several blanket stitches to choose from on the machine, which is nice. That's not the one I want. I think this is the one I want. So, and again, you don't necessarily know what the blanket stitch is going to look like if you don't use it all the time, unless you play around with it. So I usually like them to be pretty square. So I made mine 3 millimeters wide. And this is kind of the reinforced. So it kind of goes back and forth a little bit on the top one. There we go. And this is probably just a teeny tiny bit big for the size of our cup. So I'm actually going to make it like 2.5 by 2.5. And this particular stitch is going to bite into the left. So I'm going to move the stitch all the way over to the right. And this is where using that foot and the edge is going to be really helpful. So I know that my outside edge of the needle position is going to be on this outside red part here. So I need to go back to the beginning of this stitch. There we go. So that my needle is on the outside. And I've got my needle in, and I'm going to start stitching.
And of course we can absolutely ship.
So I'm at a corner and I'm going to kind of pivot into my corner here. The thing with blanket stitch applique is that you kind of have to just take your time. This is not one of those stitches where you really want to go 100 miles an hour. You might want to.
Not a good idea.
But you probably will like your results a lot better. This is also not my favorite time to have the pivot feature on when I'm going slow.
It's like it's never down.
It's never down, right?
So I assume you're talking about the open toe foot and how you would order that.
You can put it up on the screen. Making Mesa put her thinking glasses on.
Got my seeing glasses. All right. You have a shortcut for our site?
No.
Okay.
I really missed my knee lift.
You're not getting fresh anymore. We've taken some positive steps.
We're almost back around. Couple stitches in place. Love that stitch. And there we have our, try to get that in the light, little blanket stitch. Just teeny tiny around the outside edge. Perfect for this little coffee cup. You doing okay over there?
Yep. Where do I post it?
So go to comments
and I can just hit the bottom.
Yep, and then
Post to all will go both.
it will go. Yep, just copy paste. There you go, and then hit chat. All right, and it should post to both. It takes a second sometimes to do the second one. There we go. So that is blanket stitch. So my tips on blanket stitch are go slow. They are also to make sure that you are following the style of the stitch. So a blanket stitch goes forward and backwards, and then it will bite to the left or to the right, depending on the direction that you have that in. It's really important to make sure that you are only turning your material when the needle is in the outside position at the beginning of the stitch. So if your stitch goes forward, backwards, forward, you would want to make sure that you don't pivot when it's going backwards to back to forward. You want to make sure that it's completed the stitch and it's getting ready to move forward for the first time. That's when you would do your pivoting. So that's really the key to doing the blanket stitch and being accurate. And so I did want to just talk about the last thing on the towel, sewing the band on.
Sewing it on.
So your Kimberbell instructions, I'm going to widen this just a little bit again. So they want you to measure up 2 inches from this bottom fold here and then draw a line. You can see that I actually just pressed up. I thought that that would be a slightly easier way of seeing that, since sometimes it's really hard to get the pictures to show the lines to actually show up. And then the second thing that they want you to do is take your strip and sew 1/4 inch from one edge. So I've done a small seam, so my 1/4 inch seam, and I've gone from one end all the way down to the other end. Can you see it? Is it going to focus? There's thread there, I promise. And then what you're going to do is that's going to become your folded edge. So I folded on that line and pressed. So that's going to give you a nice finished edge on your towel when you go to flip up your top. So that's, you can also just turn under 1/4 inch. So if you didn't want to do it that way, you could literally just turn up 1/4 inch. It's basically just about not,
concept.
Yes, it's just about not having a raw edge on the outside edge of that. And so what we are going to do is I'm going to change this foot again.
Put it on.
What's that?
I saw you put one up there, but it wasn't that one.
No.
Yes, they absolutely will work. We just like the packaging of those feet, so that's why we carry them. They are much clearer to look at on the wall.
Yeah.
But they are literally the exact same. So absolutely will work on your brother machines. They are 7 millimeters. If you have a smaller machine, you'll have extra room.
Yeah. All right, so I am putting regular thread back in the sewing machine. And I have the standard sewing foot back on. And I am going to flip back to that 1/4 inch stitch, which on this machine is Q02. And what I'm going to do is I am going to be lining this up into this groove. So this is the fold and this is the edge of my fabric. I'm going to stitch aligning the raw edge up with that 2 inch mark, and I'm going to stitch along, and then I'm going to flip that up and I'm going to top stitch both edges. So I'm going to flip this around. There's a lot of flipping around.
There's a lot.
Yes. Get this out of my way. And you could definitely pin this in place if you felt more comfortable. You are definitely going to want to make sure that you have just a little bit, about 1/2 inch of fabric overlay on this part as well. It's going to get folded in, and then you can sew over that. So I'm going to line the 2 pieces up and stitch.
Can I help? You want a clip?
I think I'm okay. I just needed to fold it in enough. And then the key really is making sure that you aren't stretching this. Okay. I think I'm okay. All right. And sewing straight at the same time.
Right? How many hands you got?
Cool. That was pretty good. Wow, it's like a comedy of errors over here.
I've never seen that.
All right. So once you have that done, then you're just going to flip and press. So I just have to press that up. I've got my top piece over here. And I think we might want to press that. I wonder if
think
the
you're gonna
iron
wanna
is
press
still
it.
on.
You didn't unplug it,
I
then it'll
did
still be
not.
on. That one doesn't turn itself off.
All right. You want to, can you press for me?
I don't know if I can handle. I don't know how to do that.
All right. So Lisa's going to take this over to the iron and she's going to press. And then I know that this is going to surprise you. I am going to change feet again. And I'm going to put on the edge stitch foot, which is this foot right here. So this one has a black metal guide on it, and underneath it, I've got full positioning of where I want to put my needle. This is going to help me to edge stitch a nice straight professional line across the top of this. If you've never done this technique before, you could sew a basting stitch along the top to hold everything in place, and then you could top stitch. I like to top stitch. I know this is going to surprise you, but I do like to use that triple straight stitch when I top stitch. It does give you a very nice professional finished look. But if you are not sure how that's going to work, or if you have your placement, putting a long basting stitch in first will hold everything together, because it's no fun to pull out the basting stitch. It's no fun. I mean, not the basting stitch, but the triple stitch. It's no fun at all. Yes, we are sewing on a Luminaire. How bad was that?
It's not. I was just tucking the ends in.
I thought maybe it really could have been pretty crooked.
No, you're not bad.
Not too bad?
No, I'm just tucking your end in.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, we didn't have any movie magic for this one. Snap our fingers and have it all done.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we lost our magic elf in the afternoon as well.
We did lose our helper in the afternoon. Yes, Shirley, I am using Presencia thread, which is my favorite cotton sewing thread. You could use a variety of different threads. To embellish and to do the appliquing, I was actually using embroidery thread. So I was using polyester thread. You could really use just about anything you wanted here. We've kind of gotten to the point with this particular towel that it's, if your friend or neighbor or relative used this towel to like wipe their dirty hands with, I'm pretty sure that you might not invite them over anymore. So at this point, it might not matter what kind of thread you used. Now that you've put your 10 hours into it. And then if you follow the Kimberbell directions, then you add sparkling lights to it.
Right. This is definitely a showpiece.
This is a showpiece for sure. So I am going to line this up, and you can see that I'm using the edge of my foot, and I'm going to change to the triple straight stitch again. And then I'm going to move my needle position because it always goes to the left, and I definitely don't want it to be on the left. And I don't want it to be all the way over to the right, so I have stopped it at the plus 5.75 position in case anybody wants to know. And I have also increased the stitch length to 3.0. And
gives it a little bit more decorative look.
Yeah. And then we're just going to stitch.
Oh, good.
We lost the cameras. But we didn't lose this. You just did what I did.
I hit this button.
So scroll down.
Sorry.
And go to load more. And that's the one we're on.
This
so
one?
enter studio. Yep.
Yeah, your mouse is weird. Enter.
Yep.
Okay.
And then add to stream. There we go. We're
There
back.
you are.
And
Let's
then
give
swap.
you big again. Oh, Lord. I'm just going to add the edge stitch foot.
That's how you know we're live. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side.
Look at that.
We didn't even run out of bottom thread. And there we have our pretty towel. That's all top stitched and perfect.
Looks pretty darn good.
Yep. This is really fun. So even if you didn't want to do all of this other stuff, even if you just wanted to do this to the bottom part of a towel, it's really cute.
It gives it a lot of oomph.
Yeah, it's so much character and so easy to do. So
So when you have your practicing of your
mhm.
chain stitching and,
Yep.
and your
flop us.
I can flop.
You can use that one.
I
You
can
can
do
use
all
this one
kinds
if
of
you want.
things. I can use all kinds of things.
There-
I just don't know which ones I want
there you go.
anymore.
There you go. See, that's how the dot ends up on
Ends
the
up
head.
on your head.
Yep.
This time instead of my head. Ha
All
ha.
right. So that was a lot of sewing.
That was. See, I told you I was gonna make her work.
Yep.
Look at that.
So we did all kinds of techniques today. We did we stripped.
We-
We did our strip piecing or chain piecing,
So sounded like you said strip teasing.
right? Oh.
Okay.
There's a book by Eleanor Burns.
Mm.
Have you like more stripping or stripping again after 25 years or something? It's so funny. I remember somebody calling and asking for that when I was really new into this
You were like,
business,
"Excuse
and I
me?"
was like, I wonder what that is.
Not sure.
That's right. But we've done that. We showed you the easy
The-
guide for getting your seams
Your
perfect.
seams perfect,
Yep.
right where you want them without having to work for it.
Yep.
And then the edge stitch foot, which gives you that beautiful edge there without having to work for that either.
That's so nice. It gives you a nice, a very nice finished edge, which is a really great opportunity
Absolutely.
to look like you look better than the stuff that you get at the stores. If you look real closely at that stuff.
Yeah, once you start making things on your own and you start looking at them and you go, oh my gosh, I used to think this stuff was so great.
Now I'm looking at it.
Now I
like,
look at it and go, I could do that so much better. I'm not paying X amount of dollars for that.
right, because you can make it for 104.
Exactly. And
Why buy it for
and
$5
92 cents.
when I can make it for 105?
Damn straight. But I can do it better.
That's right, and it was so much fun to make.
It was so much fun to do.
Yes. Oh,
And then I
all
can
right.
brag about it.
Then you can brag about it. You get
You
bragging,
get bragging
rights.
rights.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So important.
I know. After a while, you have all of the parts, but I can remember like making like my first couple of projects, and Dave was like, "So how much did that cost you?" I'm like, "Well, I spent $300 in feet. I bought $100 worth of thread,
Yes.
and the
But
project
just so you
itself-
guys know, you won't have to spend $300.
No. Unless
That
you
was
buy
a
the
different
fancy,
B word.
or unless you buy the fancy one.
Unless you buy the fancy walking foot or
Mhm.
unless you buy like a kit that has like all
All
of
the
them
feet.
in there.
That's right.
But if you are buying individual ones, they're literally $16 or
Yeah.
$21.99.
Almost
or
everything.
almost all of them are under $25.
Yeah.
As an individual piece. And so the point of today's story is how wonderful those little feet can be.
So much fun.
But it makes your life so much more fun because instead of struggling with something and thinking that you either suck when it's not you.
It's your tools.
It's the tools that you just didn't have the right one.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much more you are physically capable of doing when you just have the right things at your fingertips. So
yes, definitely. It's a lot of fun, and we can't stress. I'm a gadget girl, but there's a reason that I'm a gadget girl because really the tools make it so much easier. It really does. It makes you want to keep doing it.
And
not
here's
feel
the thing.
frustrated.
I know that we're really bad at it, and I've been bad at it. I'm getting better. We're worth it. It's really hard. We're really, really bad at that. Women in general.
Jean and I
we are very helpful for each other, though. You totally need it.
Yes. Well, Jean and I had 2 husbands last week that actually said my wife's not worth it, and I was like, "What?"
Excuse me?
I was like, "Do you not know happy life, happy wife?" Yeah.
You got that one wrong.
Like, she didn't get it. Oh, but it was really funny. We two husbands that said that, and I really think both of them meant that it's not in the budget, but it was just what
the way it came out was not so smart, right?
Right.
But yeah, it's especially there's a point where yes, okay, maybe we have to budget for some of those things, but we're talking about $16.
That's
feet,
right. That's 2 Starbucks coffees.
Wow, you drink a big Starbucks coffee. That's a big coffee.
Yes.
Anyway,
the edge for
I tried. I'll do it again. Give me a second. It was
hard to get.
Maybe I didn't hit copy.
Could be.
Did
you do the edge stitch guide twice?
That's the wrong mouse. That's definitely not gonna work. Yeah, it still says seam guide.
It does.
That's really weird. So weird. Let's try that again. Sorry, guys. Dun, dun, dun. Copy. One more time.
She's out of practice.
Hey, I don't usually do this part. Okay, that one says edge joining right in the darn link.
There you go.
My bad.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for joining in today. It was a lot of fun. And we will see some of you tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, if you guys are Bella Boxing with us, 9 a.m., we are doing the apron. And then
tomorrow afternoon.
Is that tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
And our holiday party.
Yeah, it's tomorrow afternoon. I'm like, it's not Bella Box tomorrow
afternoon.
No. Tomorrow afternoon, we're celebrating. That's
yes, it is our Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa
holiday celebration.
So let's
you
celebrate
fill in the blank
everybody.
Of the holiday.
That's right.
Whatever works for you, we're going to celebrate it. And we are going to do a lecture demo tomorrow for both the card and I don't know where they ended up, but it doesn't really matter. The joy. So we're going to do those. We'll show you how it all works and how you guys can make it work. And we'll have a glitter fight or something. I don't know.
Yes, there will be glitter.
We'll have some more glitter for Karen to clean up. Sorry, Karen. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you guys next time. I got to find the right button.
Bye.
There we go.
You got it?
I think I got it.
Yay.